to this short presentation on vehicle safety and your personal commitment. Driving is one of the most dangerous activities we do during our working day. Safe driving practice is mandated both by the law and company policy. It's your personal responsibility to drive safely, ensure that the vehicle is roadworthy and complies with key policies. We need to be familiar with the Highway Code and other legislation and regulation which is pertinent to the use of the vehicle. Did you know that Kia drivers are fined on average of £2,000 a month for parking fines, yellow box junctions, speeding and driving without care and attention? First of all, let's look at a case study. This van driver was not to blame for this incident, so what happened? The Kia driver had an accident, but it didn't involve any other motor vehicle. The investigation by the fleet manager would look at the following points. Was a mobile phone being used? Had the daily checks been carried out consistently? Was there anything large in the back of the van that wasn't strapped down? Was the vehicle speeding? Was he wearing his seatbelt? Or was it down to driver behaviour? The van tracker would be able to tell us if he was speeding or braking harshly or driving randomly. Also, was the driver tired? How long had he been driving that day? In actual fact, this accident was caused by hitting a pothole. Here is an example of what can happen if things aren't strapped down correctly. In this case, a generator fell off the back of a flatbed truck. An off-duty army officer was killed and her husband was seriously injured in the following car. The judge sentenced the driver to 4 years in prison. It's essential to carry out your daily vehicle checks. You need to record and report any defects on a daily basis. You should know when your next service is due. Always look at your tyre treads on a weekly basis and note if anything is less than 2 millimetres in depth. All lights need to be working correctly. In this instance, this car isn't compliant because it hasn't got its headlights. Trailers can be a big cause of accidents. You need to be aware that if you're towing a trailer, you shouldn't ever be in the fast lane. You should also make sure that your breakaway cable is fitted in good condition. Make sure the hitch on the van and the trailer is checked and in good condition every time. The service tag on the trailer must be fitted at all times and be in date. If the tag isn't fitted or it's out of date, you should never use that trailer. When securing things to trailers, it's really important to get it right. Make sure that all the forces are pulling the loads downwards. You should always use 3 ratchet straps, and the straps should be checked on a regular basis. Make sure that you check them every 3 months and make sure you keep them clean. 2 documents that you must be familiar with are the Highway Code and the Kia Driver Policy. If, like me, you passed your driving test a few years ago, you should take the opportunity to get up to date with the latest version of the Highway Code. Have a look at the Kia driving policy as well. It has specific information about driving for the company. Smoking in a Kia vehicle is not allowed by law, and that includes electronic cigarettes. You can be fined if your no smoking sign is not displayed. You'll also be fined for any damage that smoking caused to your vehicle. You cannot use a mobile phone when you're driving, and that includes with hand-free devices. It is a legal requirement for all drivers and passengers to wear their seatbelts. There's no exceptions for not wearing a seatbelt unless you have a doctor's letter. The transport of hazardous materials is covered by ADR, which is a UN treaty. The vehicles carrying fuels, gases and other substances that fall under ADR are required to carry a 2 kilogram fire extinguisher. This extinguisher needs to be checked on a regular basis and check that its seal is intact and it hasn't been tampered with. You should only use this extinguisher if your safety is at risk and you need to escape in event of a fire. All containers carrying any sort of fluid or substance must be marked correctly, and fuel cans must have their ADR labels fitted to the actual can. Only use the discount fuel card to fill up your vehicle. You'll need written authorization if you're going to use another card. Report lost, stolen or missing fuel cards immediately. If a damage occurs to your vehicle, no matter how small or trivial, it needs to be reported immediately because an incident form needs to be completed. If you're stopped by any authority while driving a Kia vehicle, you need to report this immediately to your manager because the transport manager needs to be informed. You notify the company of any convictions or pending prosecutions for driving immediately. Reversing a vehicle can be hazardous. Always use a banksman or reversing assistant if you can. Always carry out a dynamic risk assessment and plan the manoeuvre carefully. Ask yourself, what is behind me? Always stop if you're not fully aware of your surroundings or if things change while you're manoeuvring. If there's a risk to personal injury or damage to property, then stop immediately. Driving can be boring and it can be frustrating. So here are a few do's and don'ts. Do drive safely and drive within the speed limit. Remember that you're driving a Kia branded vehicle and they stand out from other road users. Our telephone number is on the side of your van, so watch how you drive. Don't drive aggressively. Don't use mobile phones, including that hands-free option. Don't carry unauthorised passengers, including children and animals. And don't use it for private use unless you have written permission. Kia has made substantial investment into a new vehicle tracker system which should assist safeguarding our drivers, other road users and members of the public. Out of our 9,000 vehicles in the UK, we have 5,000 vehicles that are fitted with these trackers today. The tracker system, which is called Director, has very good speed reporting. Drivers' behaviour is monitored from harsh braking, harsh acceleration and cornering, and it monitors speeds. Each week, a driver is given a scorecard ranging from very good through to below average. The tracker system will be able to track mileage and it will be used for tax records. The driver must always log into the tracker using their card. A Kia driver or subcontractor without a driver's card is not authorised to drive a Kia vehicle. Lost cards must be reported immediately so they can be replaced. Ultimately, this will replace the mileage books once Kia is confident that all drivers are logging in. Now let's look at speeding penalties. I think we've all been guilty of hurrying home occasionally. However, let's look at some of the salary-related speeding penalties based on a £27,000 salary. If the speed limit is 30 and the recorded speed is 37, what will be the points and the fines awarded? You'll get 3 points and £270 fine. If you're going 82 in a 60, you can get up to 6 points and 28 days disqualification and a £520 fine. And then on the motorway, if you're going 103 in a 70, you could get 6 points and a 56-day disqualification and nearly an £800 fine. You may already be familiar with this graphic and this information, however, it's always worth going over again. At 20 miles an hour, if a vehicle hits a pedestrian, then 9 out of 10 pedestrians will survive. If the vehicle's travelling at 30 miles an hour, 5 out of 10 pedestrians survive. But if the vehicle is travelling at 40, then only 1 out of the 10 pedestrians will survive. It's really important to make sure that you abide by the speed limit. This graph shows the average fines for light goods offences, and by far away the highest fine you can get is for overloading your vehicle. All Kia drivers are committed to abide by the Kia company policy, that is to stay safe and legally compliant while using their vehicle and trailer. It is a legal requirement and company policy. If in doubt, ask before you drive any Kia vehicle. The penalty for causing death by dangerous driving is a maximum of 14 years in prison. Remember, keep your commitments and get home safely.